December 2002 brought audiences one of the most ambitious period dramas ever made. Gangs of New York transported viewers to the blood-soaked streets of 1860s Manhattan, where Leonardo DiCaprio and Daniel Day-Lewis battle for control of the 5 Points. But behind the scenes, this film was decades in the making, plagued by production nightmares and method acting, taken to dangerous extremes. From near-fatal illnesses to casting decisions that could have changed cinema history, these are the secrets that define Martin Scorsese's brutal masterpiece. What you're about to discover will change everything you thought you knew about this epic. Number 1. A New Year's Day that changed everything. The calendar read January 1st, 1970, when a young director picked up a book that would haunt him for 3 decades. Martin Scorsese discovered Herbert Asbury's 1928 work, The Gangs of New York, an informal history of the underworld, and immediately saw the potential for an American epic. In those brutal portraits of gang warfare, he envisioned the violent birth of modern democracy. But Scorsese had no money or fame yet. By 1979, after establishing himself with mean streets and taxi driver, he purchased the film rights and commissioned a screenplay. Universal Pictures, Disney, Warner Brothers, 20th Century Fox, Paramount, and MGM all declined. The 1980 disaster of Michael Cimino's Heaven's Gate had terrified Hollywood away from expensive period pieces. It wasn't until 1999 that Harvey Weinstein at Miramax Films finally gave him the green light. That New Year's Day discovery became a 32-year obsession, making this the longest development period of any Scorsese film. Number 2. The last set like this you'll ever see. A legendary filmmaker walked onto the Roman set and delivered a prophecy that sent chills through the crew. George Lucas, then working on Attack of the Clones, visited the massive Gangs of New York production at Cinecittà Studios and told Scorsese something unforgettable. This would be the last time anyone would build something this elaborate physically. Production designer Dante Ferretti created over a mile of mid-9th century New York from scratch. The recreation included 5 city blocks of the 5 Pound slum, the East River waterfront with 2 full-size sailing ships, Tammany Hall, churches, saloons, and a patrician Fifth Avenue mansion. When the production desperately needed an elephant and Italian animal wranglers couldn't provide one, Lucas guided them through filming without the animal and having it digitally created. It remains the only completely computer-generated element in the entire film. Number 3. When method acting nearly became murder. The freezing Rome winter of 2000 created dangerous conditions for filming. Daniel Day-Lewis, committed to absolute authenticity, insisted on wearing only period-accurate 1860s clothing despite the brutal cold. While other cast members bundled up in modern coats between takes, Dwiss refused any concession to comfort. The inevitable happened. He contracted pneumonia. When doctors diagnosed him and prescribed antibiotics, Day-Lewis made a shocking decision. He refused the treatment entirely. His reasoning was simple but terrifying. Antibiotics didn't exist in the 1860s, so Bill the Butcher wouldn't have access to them. As his condition worsened, he continued roaming Rome's streets in character, picking fights with strangers. Day-Lewis would later admit to The Independent, "I will admit that I went mad. Totally mad. He was a marvelous character and a joy to be, but not so good for my physical or mental health." The production team eventually persuaded him to seek medical treatment before the situation became fatal. Number 4. The secret meaning behind Dead Rabbits. A gang name that sounds oddly specific actually carried a hidden threat that only insiders understood. The Dead Rabbits weren't named after actual deceased rodents, but rather a corrupted piece of Irish-American slang that struck fear into anyone who knew its true meaning. The word rabbit is actually a corruption of the Gaelic word ribade, which translates a man to be feared. When combined with dead, which in period Irish-American slang meant very, the full name translates to a man to be greatly feared. This wasn't playful gang branding. It was a warning written in corrupted Gaelic. Their battle standard reinforced this menace. A dead rabbit impaled on a pike, carried into combat as a symbol of their fearsome reputation. The corrupted language served a dual purpose. It identified fellow Irish immigrants while remaining mysterious to outsiders. Number 5. The glass eye you could tap with a knife. Most actors would have reached for a simple contact lens to simulate a glass eye. Daniel D. Lewis chose a far more dangerous path for Bill the Butcher's iconic glass eye emblazed with an American eagle. He had his actual eyeball covered in prosthetic glass. Then he took it further. D. Lewis practiced tapping the glass eye with the tip of a razor-sharp knife without blinking, training himself to perform this unsettling trick repeatedly without flinching. This wasn't in the original script. During filming, he improvised a knife tap, shocking his co-stars who watched in horror as he performed the stunt take after take. The physical commitment created an authenticity that no computer effect could match. When audiences watch Bill casually tap his glass eye with a blade, they are witnessing a real actor performing a genuinely dangerous act. That visceral reality made Bill's menace feel terrifyingly real. Number 6. When real gangsters became movie stars. Before the battle at the beginning of the film, several gangs introduced themselves with fierce pride. What audiences might assume is Hollywood invention was actually meticulous historical recreation. The Dead Rabbits, the Bowery Boys, and the 40 Thieves were all real-life New York gangs that terrorized the Five Points during the 1860s and 1870s. Scorsese's team researched period accounts and police records to ensure accuracy. The gangs' appearance, their weapons of choice, and their violent behavior in the film match historical documentation. These weren't romanticized movie villains, but authentic recreations of brutal street fighters. Perhaps the most fascinating detail is what happened to many gang members later in life. Numerous fighters eventually became politicians, showing how the line between criminal and civic leader was razor-thin in Civil War-era New York. The same men who bashed skulls in Paradise Square later held political office. Number 7. Knife tricks from an Irish circus. Preparation for a role usually means reading books and studying footage. Daniel D. Lewis turned his preparation into an international operation. To master Bill the Butcher's signature knife-throwing skills, he hired 2 circus performers and arranged for them to fly all the way to his home in Wicklow, Ireland. But D. Lewis didn't stop with knife-throwing. He spent several weeks working in an actual butcher shop, learning how to meticulously size and butcher meat. Lewis wanted to understand the psychological relationship a butcher develops with their tools, the intimate knowledge of anatomy, the casual comfort with blood and blade. When cameras finally rolled, every movement D. Lewis made with a knife carried the weight of genuine skill. Whether he was throwing a blade across a room or casually cutting meat, the authenticity was undeniable. His hands moved with practiced confidence, making Bill's violence feel less like performance and more like terrifying reality. Number 8. From Belushi to Hanks, a casting odyssey. The role of Bill the Butcher went through one of Hollywood's strangest casting journeys before Daniel D. Lewis ever read the script. In 1978, Martin Scorsese envisioned an entirely different film with an unexpected cast. He planned to feature Saturday Night Live legends Daenerys as Amsterdam Ballon and John Belushi as Bill the Butcher. The project collapsed tragically when Belushi passed away in 1982. Over the next 2 decades, the role morphed through various iterations. Robert De Niro was actually cast as Bill, but dropped out when he learned filming would require 6 months in Europe. Then came perhaps the most surprising offer, Tom Hanks, who loved the script but had scheduling conflict with Road to Perdition. It wasn't until 1999 that Daniel D. Lewis finally accepted the role 21 years after Scorsese's first casting attempt. Imagine how radically different this film would have been with Belushi's manic energy, Hanks's everyman appeal, or De Niro's method intensity.